Just a few more sleeps to go for the Border Gavaskar Trophy, which has quickly become the ultimate endorsement and advertisement for Test cricket around the globe, for the high intensity, the level of cricket, the drama, and the context. Australia are finally touring India after a long gap, and this one comes after India having won 2 back-to-back series down under. It's time to welcome all our friends from the media, audiences joining us from all across the country and around the globe for this very special session. Before we set the ball rolling, it's only fair for me to introduce our panel for today. Couldn't have asked for a better panel. Joined by former Australia captain, one of the most impactful voices coming from down under after a very long time in the august company of Ian Chappell. And joining him is a man who will always have that satisfaction of being the first man in charge when India scripted history down under. Ravi Shastri is joining us with his booming voice as well. Chappelli, trust all is well. Good to see you. Ian, I'm hoping you can hear me. I know there's a long distance for the voice to travel. Am I loud and clear, audible? So I think we'll just get our digital waves sorted. It wasn't anything about Australia. Nothing to do with the reference of the 2 back-to-back series wins that India have had. But I could see a smile on Ravi Shastri's face. Shaz, so many series that you've been a part of. This smile has a lot of satisfaction and a lot of stories hidden behind it.
Naturally, it's something that's never happened. So, when it happens the first time, you start tickling yourself. But when it happens the second time round, then it really hits you that, no Asian team has ever beaten Australia in Australia. And if you see of late what Australia do to teams when they toured Australia, it's there for everyone to see. They just hammer them. They just, it's as if there's just one team on the park. If you look at the last 5-6 years. So what India has done is something all the players should be proud of.
Yeah, I was just looking at some numbers. From 2016, Australia played 37 matches at home. They won 25 of them. They've lost 6 and 4 of them have come against the mighty Indians. Let's just quickly have a look at the schedule, bring everyone up to speed. I'm pretty sure by now all the cricket fans around the globe know the schedule by heart. It all begins at a beautiful ground in Nagpur, the VCA Stadium. On the 9th of February, we will be with you live at 8:30 a.m. That should pretty much set the tone for an engrossing series which moves to the national capital in Delhi, 17th to the 21st. Then a gap of about a week, and then we travel further up north, the picturesque stadium in Dharamshala. It might be a little cold up there, but trust this series to produce enough fire. 1st to the 5th of March, and then the ultimate decider, 9th to the 13th at the biggest stadium in the world. It's Ahmedabad that will see the 4th and final test. Just a quick check. Do we have Ian Chappell with us? Well, we're still just waiting for Chappelli to join us with the connection sorted. But Shaz, the context of the series. The last time India played here, Australia pushed us. They tested us. But just this time, coming down, calling it the Everest. Given that India won the last 2 series at home and, shaken up just a reputation, one Gabba, do you think it just adds so much more intrigue and intensity to this one?
Oh, no question about that. I mean, they would be just hoping for the test match to start because they want to reverse that scoreline. It's not going to be easy. They're playing in India. Just like, what Australia does to sides when they tour there, India does the same to sides when they tour here. So, Australia will have to be really on top of their game if they have to threaten India.
Would you say it's, at least over the last foreseeable period, the last decade and a half, or maybe even this century, this has been one of the greatest rivalries in modern day sport?
Oh, no question about it, because it's not just the cricket on the field, the buzz that's created around an India-Australia series is second to none, actually, in world cricket today. And India is one of the teams that has really competed against Australia. And that's what, got everybody going to literally watch this series. everyone is in anticipation as to what's going to happen. But more than anything else, I mean, credit must be given to the Indian players for making that happen. Australia always had a reputation of playing in a certain fashion, dismantling sides. But for India to step up and play them at their own game, speaks volumes of the way the Indian players have performed over the last few years.
Before I move on to the media question, Shaz, just one final thing. When you say this step up, what eventually resulted in that step up? You were someone putting all the pieces of the jigsaw together when the first time it happened, and then it repeated with a young nucleus. What changed? What changed in that series?
I mean, what changed was very simple. You went to Australia to beat them. That was the mindset, not to fill in the numbers. So you went there with no excuses whatsoever. When it came to the conditions, the pitches we played on, and very early in that stint of mine, I had said we're going to take the pitch out of the equation. This stuff of playing at home and overseas, to hell with that. You're playing cricket on a 22-yard strip, which is the same for both sides. Now, our endeavour was to get to Australia and take 20 wickets before they could take 20 wickets and beat them. And we did that.
Well, of course, there'll be a lot of pitch talk as we move forward in this conversation, but we do have Ian Chappell, who's been listening to a conversation. I'm guessing, Chappelli, nice to finally have you here. The screen's not frozen. We can see you move around. I know the Ashes will perhaps always be sacrosanct, but you followed this series very closely. Do you think it's just gone a notch higher in what we've seen over the last 5 or 6 editions?
Well, as a player, I think every series is important. There's a lot of talk about the Ashes and obviously, the history, Australia versus England. But if any Australian player isn't taking Australia v India seriously, then they probably shouldn't be in the squad.
We were just talking about the wickets, and Ravi was telling us how the Indian team took the wicket out of the equation. There is a question that's coming from ESPN Cricket Info, where I believe we'll be seeing you throughout this India-Australia series. Ravi, what sort of wickets would you like to see? Of course, India have got the home advantage. It's the beauty of Test cricket and the challenge. Wherever you go, you do have a bit of home advantage. But would you like to see turners or wickets that start turning gradually?
You're speaking to an Indian here, right? Who's just been 2 trips to Australia. I want the ball to turn day one. Day one. If you lose the toss, so be it. If you're fielding first, but you want to see the ball turning a bit or something there on offer for the bowlers day one. It's your strength. You're playing at home. Capitalize on it.
Chappelli, your thoughts on it? And in fact, just this morning I was reading Ian Healy has made a statement, I believe, and goes that if India dish out fair pitches, there's always a lot of talk, and it especially happens when it's the subcontinent involved, that if there are fair pitches, Australia hold the advantage, but if it turns, then India does. Your take on this entire talk around the spin that you face here, which has always been a tradition, actually?
Well, there's a lot of crap spoken about pitches. I believe it doesn't happen, but I believe that nobody other than the curator or groundsman in some countries should have any say in what wickets are produced. I don't think it's up to the players, the manager, the coach, anybody. You just produce a good pitch, and surely a curator or a groundsman has pride like a player and wants to produce a good pitch. I mean, the good curators I've spoken to, I say, what sort of pitch do you want? And they say, we want a pitch where some team wins on the 5th day after tea time. And that should be the aim of all curators. So I think a lot of rubbish is spoken about pitches. For Ian Healy to say that Australia's got the advantage, a lot of that's based on what Australia has done at home. They're not playing at home, they're playing in India. And why anybody would think that India don't start with an advantage, I don't know.
Ian, there's a question that's come in for you from the Times of India. Do you think the 2001 series was the spark that this rivalry needed? Because after that series, we've seen pretty much all the Test series, they've gone down to the wire.
Well, again, I mean, a series is a series. And as a player, you're going out there to win that series. So a spark, I don't know about that. There was some pretty good series before that. I think to just pick one series and say this is what turned it around, I think it's a bit of a pipe dream.
So it's just the heroes that have sort of changed, right? From 2001, the baton has been passed in a beautiful manner. You've seen Virat Kohli and his love affair with Australia in Australia. How do you think he's looking at this series? I mean, T20Is, he's sort of announced his return. We've seen that in ODIs. Now he's getting into the whites, which is so passionate about. What do you think is brewing in there?
I think just seeing his record against Australia, that should really spur him on. Forget what's happened over the last few years as far as Test cricket goes with other teams. But with Australia, I think he'll be charged up, and he'll want to start with. When I look at this series, you look at the first 2 innings or 3 innings, where someone like a Kohli with his past record, if he gets off to a start, then he'll make it count. There's no question about that. Then he'll be a thorn in the flesh for Australia right through the series. So from Australia's point of view, they won't want that to happen. They would like to get on top of him from the outset. But Kohli's record, his average against Australia is just under 50, which is quite amazing with the amount of cricket he's played against Australia, the kind of attack they have, the number of times he's played in Australia. So I think it's a fabulous record, and that should really get him going.
Last time around, Australia did manage to keep that bat quiet, but everyone else rallied around Virat. There's a question that's coming from the Telegraph for you, Shaz. He hasn't played much of red ball cricket off late, Virat, I'm talking about. His quality aside, the numbers aside, do you think it could go on to become a factor in the upcoming Test series that he's not really played a lot of red ball cricket off late?
I think who's played red ball cricket? I mean, to just point a finger at him, he's not played. He just played a Test series in Bangladesh. He might have not got runs. But where has India played a lot of Test cricket of late? It's more white ball cricket. So it's not that doesn't apply just to Virat Kohli. It applies to a lot of the other players. Yes, the players who have played a lot of domestic cricket, that it might stand them in good stead. But for the Indian players' point of view, I think a lot of them have not played red ball cricket. So, they've got to be awake from the outset.
Ian, we're now moving to someone who's excited audiences around the globe. I mean, he's come, he conquered, but Rishabh Pant is someone that India are dearly going to miss. I'm sure he's excited you as well. He's had such an important role in Team India's victory. Everyone remembers the last series down under. How much will India miss Pant? Let me first get this from an Australian perspective.
India are really going to miss Rishabh Pant, and I think where the Australians will be happy that he's not playing is in his approach to the game. He's a counter-attacker. I mean, speaking as a captain, the guys that keep you awake at night are the fellas who score quickly, score big, and they can change a match in one session. And Rishabh Pant's that sort of player. So he's one player that the Australians don't have to worry about, and they'll be delighted by that.
Just the way he changed so many games with his bat, the way he's always in your ears from behind the stumps. Ravi, the next question comes in from IANS for you. In the absence of Rishabh Pant, your preferred wicket-keeping option, there is KS Bharat, who's been travelling with the side for some time now, but then there is also a left-hander potential similar impact coming in from Ishan Kishan. Who would you pick?
Now that's the tough call for India, really tough call. That's how important Rishabh Pant is, because he ticks both the boxes. Like you mentioned, behind the stumps, he not only has his keeping improved drastically, but he can get under the skin of the batsman. That's one very important thing that he has. When he keeps. But as a batsman, he's so dangerous that he can turn a game on its head. In fact, he's played more match-winning innings than any of the top 5 Indian batsmen. In the last 2 or 3 years when it mattered. So, that's a big blow. When it comes to the two people out there, Ishan Kishan or KS Bharat, I think what you'll have to weigh is what the pitch is going to play like. I would see if it's going to turn, then I'd look for the better keeper. That's the decision the team management will have to make. The better keeper, because the guy is like Jadeja, Kuldeep, if he plays, there's Ashwin. They'll need a good keeper behind the stumps, because that will get the confidence of the bowler going as well. So that will be the tough choice. Who do you think is the better keeper? Will be my first choice.
There you go, the better keeper, the better batter. So many important nitty-gritties in this particular format. So for all of them joining us on social media, all our fans, hope that we've just whet your appetite and you're all geared up for the 9th of February when we join you from Nagpur at 8:30 in the morning for this epic clash. Moving on to the next question. Chupelli, there is obviously a name. We've been talking about someone turning matches, but there is someone who will turn the game, someone who thinks a lot and clearly he's settled into the minds of all the Australians.